Welcome back to ATL Day Ones. I'm Tenitra. This is my boy Jarvis, and we appreciate you guys for rocking with us and stopping by once again. As always, you can check us out on any audio platform. You can also check us out on YouTube. Subscribe, like, follow us, and subscribe, and like everybody in the Locked On Atlanta podcast family. Also, the new 11 Alive Plus app for Roku and Amazon Fire launched today. And our shows are all on its really cool carousel on the site. So if you have Roku or Amazon Fire, download that app and check us out there as well. Also, let's talk about checking out the Hawks.
Yeah,
I checked them out last night. You
I
checked
checked
them
them out
out
last
last
night.
night.
Yeah,
And I
yes.
almost wanted to check out, period, but I'm not going to go there. So game two had an eerily similar feel to game one, at least in the end result for the Heat.
Right.
115 on Sunday night, 115 on Tuesday night. But the good thing is, at least there was an uptick on behalf of the Hawks, on the side of the Hawks, offensively. And even, Jarvis, dare we say, defensive intensity as well. Unfortunately, for a number of reasons that you and I are going to break down in these next few minutes, it was not enough for the Hawks to get over the hump. So they come home down 0-2 on Friday and look to get themselves back in this series. So that's kind of where I want to start. But if time permits, and if it doesn't, you guys can come back tomorrow because we'll be talking about this until draft day for the NBA. But
Indeed.
one of the things that stood out to me, if we get time to talk about it today, is, and I don't want to sound like a pessimist because I'm still going to be hopeful and believe Atlanta, but it made me say this game, this series, even this postseason, Jarvis, it hopefully shines enough of a light on exactly what's wrong, what's missing from this team in order for them to get amongst the Heat, the Bulls, the Bucks, even dare I say the Raptors, although I know what they're looking like these days and in their series versus the Sixers. But basically, I'm talking about that echelon that
Mm.
they almost touched last year in the Eastern Conference Finals. I believe that's something that we can talk about as well. And I believe this entire postseason has really shown a light on what's missing, what's lacking, that kind of thing like when Luther's hair wouldn't curl back in the day, Luther Vandross.
Right, right, right,
Anyway,
right, right.
that said, I want to talk about it top to bottom, and let's start with your thoughts on Trae Young.
Wow. Turnovers. That's the first word that comes to my mind. I think for you, for your guy, for your star to have
Mm-hmm.
10 turnovers
Yeah.
in a playoff game, which ranks like top five all
Yeah.
time in
Yeah.
playoff games. That is absolutely
Unacceptable.
unacceptable. It is unacceptable because you putting your team in bad situations when you're talking
Mm-hmm.
about turn the ball over, and then Miami is a team that they're going to get out and run.
Yes.
When they get turnovers, they are out to the races. They are off to the races. That's for sure. Because Jimmy Butler, when it's just so amazing to see those guys play defense. I'm just
Yeah.
amazed
Oh,
at it
yeah.
because
Yeah.
it's
It's
just like,
impressive.
wow, like no soft passes. I was watching the
Yes.
TNT broadcast last night,
Mm-hmm.
and Jimmy Jackson was talking about how just you can't throw soft passes in the area or even in the vicinity
Yes.
of Jimmy Butler, because you have to know where you're going, because if you
Mm-hmm.
do, it's going to be a steal and a dunk
Yes.
or a layup. So
Yes.
I think you have to kind of look at it from that standpoint. I'm just like,
Mm-hmm.
man, Trae put his team in a bad situation last
Yeah.
night, and I think that he's going to have to minimize those things. If he does minimize those things last
Mm-hmm.
night, the score may be different. The end
Yeah.
result may be different. So you
Yeah.
can't get
Yeah.
out in a situation where you're putting your team in a bad spot like that.
Yeah, because when you think about it, traffic is always going to be there. That's what the Heat do. They create traffic.
Yes.
Even when there's just one guy, they make it feel like there are two or three guys there. And I want to go back into something that you just mentioned that irked me because it literally is like basketball one-on-one 101. When you are
Mm-hmm.
inbounding the ball, that is something that should not, for a
Come on.
superstar, that should not be a part of this conversation. But
Right.
an inbound ball, that led to points for the Heat, that
Yeah.
turnover. And then you talk
Yep.
about, like you were saying, the soft passes and thinking that that was something that you were going to get over on them. No, that's nothing that you're going to get over on them.
Mm-mm.
Also, when you talk about beating the trap, Trae has been dealing with traps and double teams and full court presses all season long. And granted, the Heat are a bit more physical, if you will, but you've
Indeed.
got to deal with that trap, those traps, and you've got to make crisp passes out of the traps. And you can't just pass it just to pass it, right? Like
Right.
that's the
Exactly. Yeah.
answer to getting out of the trap. It still has to be a smart pass. Heck, if you can't get out of the trap sometimes, maybe take a timeout, almost go college wise,
Why not?
college style
Yeah.
basketball. If that's what you need to do to reset yourself, but making those kinds of errant decisions, those mental errors, if you will, that's something that he's got to get past. And then the physicality. I mean, don't get into the emotional piece as well. That may
Yeah.
not be the technical side
That's
of this,
their
but it
game.
still
Yeah.
plays exactly. It still plays into it because Jimmy Butler, that's straight out of third ward
That's
in
a game.
Houston. That's gonna play a head game on you all day, every day if you let him.
Yes.
And then his team follow suit. Gabe Vincent followed suit last night. He was giving the Hawks straight grief on defense.
Kyle
Kyle
Lowry,
Lowry
pudge
was,
yourself.
oh my God, he was going for an Oscar last night. It was
Right.
crazy.
Exactly.
Right. So you already know who they are and that they play physical, but they also play a mental game. And you've got to be ready for that. You cannot get bogged down into a back and forth, a tete-a-tete with the referee that gets you teed up. That's not
Yeah.
what the leader can do because that doesn't fire up, it frustrates. We've seen Nate
Hmm.
McMillan maybe get teed up, but that's when he's showing passion at the right time and that galvanizes the team. What I saw last night, that wasn't it. And one more thing that I thought about was, well, two things. Number one is, how do you do better with that? Well, what you do is the family. You called it, I love it, as opposed to calling them the others. You called them the
Right.
family.
Yeah.
They have
Trey and the
to
family.
make shots that make the Heat less confident to even bring the trap on Trae. Bogdan Bogdanovich did that last night. At
Oh my
least forced them
God.
to look at a second option, which was
Goodness
the reason
gracious.
that it was even just a 10-point loss, right? And the
Right.
other thing is, I so love the evolution of Steph Curry's game because he was very similar to Trae in the beginning in terms of needing the ball in his hands and having to move with the ball. Now, the last few years of his career, effortlessly moves without that ball. Trae has got to learn to do that as well because that's going to be
We saw a little
critical.
glimpse last night, right? And I
Yeah,
was like,
just
oh
a
my
little though.
God. Just a
But we
little bit.
need
Just a little bit.
we
We
need
need
more
more of it.
because that's
Yes.
the evolution of his game
Yep.
that is going to pay dividends for this team down the road and down the stretch when you get into the postseason.
You talk about Kevin Herter, bringing the ball up, and then
Yes.
Trey actually end up getting open on,
Yes.
moving around, moving without the basketball. That was a beautiful sight.
Yes, it
I
was.
thought that was definitely a positive last night,
Hmm.
and to be able to see that. And the other thing I wanted to point out before we get ready to do the for the culture, I think that John Collins, I thought he was solid.
Yes. Yes.
I
Yes.
thought
Let's
JC
give him
was
love.
solid last night.
Let's
He
give him
was he
some
was out
love.
there going to get
Absolutely.
those rebounds.
Hmm.
He was getting points, like I said, on non-call plays.
Yeah.
And I think that one of the things that I talked about as far as going with the pump fake, because those guys are so aggressive, he was able to use that
Yes.
and put the ball on the floor and,
Yes.
and
Yes.
go in for the easy layup because those
Hmm.
guys are so aggressive and trying to guard that 3-point line
Yeah.
so harshly. And I would like I definitely want to point that out that
Hmm.
JC, I thought that he gave 29 minutes last
Yes.
night, and I'm gonna ask for more. Like
Yeah.
I need
Yeah.
I need more. I need
We need
more of
more.
what I
Yes.
saw last night, and I need
Hmm.
more time on that floor being
Yes.
effective in a John Collins type way.
Yeah, and it was good to see him in that center position. That's what we thought might make a difference, and it actually did. We weren't
Yep.
sure if that meant Double O was going to go back to the four. Gallo was at the four last night. A little off night for him, but that's okay. I can't get down on Gallo because of what he has given us so far in the postseason.
Indeed.
Everybody's doing off game. I'm all good with that. Two more people I want to shout out before we wrap up because that actually is making my soul smile. See how Jarvis makes me happy about
Yeah.
sad
Come
things,
on.
even when I'm a
Yes.
little sad or frustrated. We bring it back to the positive for each other, right?
Right.
So
Of course.
two other people that I wanted to just shout out were Delon Wright and Deandre Hunter. Specifically with
Yes.
Delon, somebody asked me a question this morning, and I thought it was a valid question. And he said, "Hey, we've talked about the absence of Clint Capella, which hey, he's doing at least some physical work. So who knows? We might get to see him in Game 3 or Game 4. Who knows?" But he said, "Well, we never talk about the absence of Lou Williams." And I said, while I hear what you're saying, Lou wasn't necessarily giving enough offense, and it could have been related to his back, but he wasn't necessarily giving enough offense to offset the defense that Delon Wright was bringing. And we are
Yes.
seeing him consistently give us defense and just enough points wise as far as the offense goes. But you need his defense. That's what you need from him. And that's what you got last night. And for DeAndre Hunter, and I don't want to blame things all on the refs, by the way, Jarvis, I don't want to play that game. But there were some ticky tack fouls that were called on Dre last night.
Super.
Got him in
Yes.
foul trouble and kind of got him out of his rhythm because he was shooting early. He was defending. Because remember, Jimmy Butler had some decent numbers in the beginning, but he really went the heck off at the end of the second quarter and in the second half.
Yeah.
Coincidentally, Dre was in foul trouble. So again,
Exactly.
yeah. So when you look at that, that is those are two of the things that encourage me for what it could be in game three. And then you think about all of those things together, Trae and his, missteps, Dre not getting in foul trouble, getting a little bit more from JC, and that starts to bridge the gap to actually get them a win. But we'll talk more Hawks tomorrow. We'll talk more Hawks Friday, talk about what the keys to the game will be to actually
Indeed.
get that win and get back in this series. But in the meantime, we'll take you to For the Culture on the other side, where we're going to talk about one of my favorite restaurants and one of our favorite things on any menu here in Atlanta when we come back. It is ATL Day Ones. We'll see you on the other side.